Right, so I'm going to start with the last one. And this is because it's one of the most powerful ones. It happened in 2012. I want to imagine 2012 when we had that idea of the Mayan calendar coming to an end and the end of the world, and there was a lot of talk about the end of the world. For that time, I had gone to Mexico to make peace with my people and make contact with my land in an intent to find that light and find that connection not only with myself but with everything else. In very short sentences, I wanted to get enlightened. I have done everything I could from 2008 to 2012. And this period is because in 2008 I had my very first death experience. And I had all this period to kind of prepare for the next one. And it happened like this. It was 2012. And it was only 8 days after the new year. I already felt I was feeling the lack of breath, because the way it happened was through pneumonia, swine flu, and AIDS. That's what killed me back then. My body was completely depleted of defenses, and then it had been attacked through my lungs and the swine flu. There was pretty much no possibility to survive that. On the 8th of January, I fell into coma. And I stayed in coma for 9 days. During those 9 days, I had a journey. I had a journey that took me through 3 different levels of consciousness or existence or awareness, and they were very, very different between each other. What I can remember was the very first one. As soon as I kind of disconnected from the reality, as soon as I fell unconscious, I woke up in this red world, and it was a very scary, dark, dense, difficult to breathe, obviously, probably because of the pneumonia that my body was going through, and extremely frightening. I remember awakening in this place, not knowing what the fuck was going on. I remember just being afraid of moving, of turning, of looking around. It looked huge, but it had these kind of black shadows. Like, for me at that time, looked like a forest. It was like a red forest with a very dense atmosphere. I remember trying to figure out what was going on, where was I, because I was awake. It wasn't a dream, because I was in control of my thoughts, or in control of my awareness. I knew there was logic and there was a progression. I knew very clearly what was happening within me. I knew the fear. I could experience the fear. I could experience the difficulty of breathing. I could experience the not knowing what was happening. But more than anything was the fear. I knew I was dying, and I was scared like shit. I mean, I was truly out of anything that I could possibly share it with words. It was so scary. And I remember beginning to kind of pray. I was asking God, help me, Mom, where are you? Because I could feel my mom being somewhere. I knew that my mom was somewhere, but I couldn't see her, I couldn't feel her. And I was just asking, shouting, somebody. I don't think I did somebody, but I think I was. It was more like God help me, Mom, where are you? I cannot do this. I remember that I cannot do this alone. What's happening to me? And when I was in this place, I remember this figure beginning to approach me, and it was very quick, like, and it escaped few frames of reality, because it was like appearing here and then appearing here, and then it will come closer, and I was so scared. I didn't know what it was, and as soon as it would come very close to my face, it will do something like that, and it will blow this white powder in front of me, and I will begin to suffocate, and I will just I couldn't breathe. I knew I was dying. I knew that something was stopping me, but I thought that I needed to breathe. I knew that I needed to continue that. That's what I thought. And I resisted. I was like, no, don't leave me alone. Mom, where are you? And I was just getting into this panic and more panic and more panic. And this figure would come at least twice and will blow this powder on my face. And then this tiny thing, it will come with a very weird, high-pitched laugh that will go into my ears and kind of stop me from hearing everything else, like totally put me out of my center, like totally disintegrate whomever I was or whatever I was, and I was losing control, and I didn't know what to do. At some point, after praying, begging for my mom to help me, I remember listening to her voice, and she said, relax, let go, everything is all right, I'm here with you. And the moment that happened, I remember feeling this and I began to let go of my breath, if that makes sense. Let go of my breath, and I began to move in this slow motion backwards, as if somebody was dragging me or something was dragging me back. And I got into this lift, because I changed reality. That's when I changed reality, and I got to the next level. I went up to the next level, and I remember these openings, these doors opening in front of me, and from the red world, the red atmosphere, the red planet, or the red place where I was, where everything was so frightening and aggressive and not violent, but violent in terms of how on your face it was, how like trying to scare me out. I don't know. But then I moved to this second place, to this second level, and I remember the doors opening in front of me, and there were these black doors, very shiny black doors, and they open in front of me, and I see this corridor, massive corridor of like black marble, like something very shiny but black. and it was a corridor, and then I saw the walls going up, and the corridor, it was like a bridge, because I could also see on this side, I could see my family. I could see family down there, and they were like waiting for me, and they were talking about me, and somehow I knew that they knew I was there. And some of the faces I recognized from my life, other faces I didn't. But I remember going, as I went into this corridor, I began to have some sort of downloads, as if I was receiving information, as if I was becoming aware of different realities, because what that world showed me was history. Where do you come from? Who you've been, and what kind of vibration are you made of? It was like, let me show you who you are, bitch. I mean, like I know that you have no idea. Come on, let me show you. Obviously, all this without words, in a very silent, hugely silent, dark place where information was being received, and I don't probably transmitted. I saw an eye looking at me, crying, and I remember thinking, don't cry for me, I'm fine. One of the pieces of information that I got from there was how I was created. When was I created? Not as me, not as Eduardo, but how I was created at the beginning of times, kind of thing. And there was these visions of clusters popping in and out, but there was like each cluster were made of spheres or circles, and they would come and move around. And I knew that these circles, many circles, would made huge clusters, were kind of family clusters, and I remember seeing how back I come from, like how many times I've done what I'm doing, and how many times I've changed roles, and how many times I've been the villain, how many times I've been the victim, how many times I've been up, and how many times I've been down. And I saw how this construction of knowledge, in a process of knowing who we are, discovering what is that we are made of, and how do we support each other, and how in the different layers of existence, lives, we come together to receive the information that will allow us to continue our journey in an expansive way. There is no ever one piece of reality that works against us. Everything is perfectly manufactured, engineered. Even the worst of evils is perfectly engineered for its opposite to restore balance, to come and restore balance. Many That's the place where all my questions were answered. Why the pain? Why the abuse? Why the tears? Why so much uncertainty? Why so much unlove? Why so much confusion and doubt, insecurity? Why so much negativity? And then I was presented with this award of awareness, to see, you see, all that darkness is not to bring you down. It was to teach you what are your weaknesses, so you can know or realize what are your strengths. And then it was like boom, 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 boom. And then every single pain, every single blow of consciousness, it came with this. Oh, so that's why I was abused so much. That's what I learned subconsciously. That's what I learned. That's how I learned to not trust others, but begin to trust myself. Because there was going to be the time when nobody will support my beliefs, and I needed to be strong enough to know that the connection that we are building, or that a connection that I have with my beliefs, is strong enough to stay put without the need of others' approval. Like this video. I mean, you know, the amount of time that I doubted, that I feared to come out with it, because it's as crazy as shit. It's crazy as shit, but it was the only way, the only transport, I don't know, the only material that was available to me to give me the opportunity to heal everything that I needed to heal. I needed to receive that kind of token of trust, that token of I don't know, probably gratitude, because I think that I feel that the universe feels our pain, and it knows that it's not meant to hurt us. It's meant to awaken us. It's meant to say, we don't have to suffer. We don't have to live the way we are. I mean, we have everything that we need to make this the most beautiful, loving, supportive, technologically advanced world. We have everything, so every single person of this planet lives in harmony and in abundance and happiness, and it's just this creates the vision of light and perfection, of unity, and not only limited by our planet, but being able to expand our awareness to different planets and galaxies. That's how far we can project our progress. That's how far we can project our awareness and love across galaxies. It is very humbling having experienced the life outside life. Life is it's beyond the limitation of our brain and mind, of this a mortal mind, which is beautifully created in the image of the greater mind. But this tiny mind, it needs to listen to the outer mind. So anyway, I was in this black tunnel or corridor passage, and information came and go. I saw my family. I keep seeing my family. I saw the many the many things that they would do consciously and subconsciously to support each other's progress. At that point, I understood the power of love, the power of connection, the power of family, the power of the group in which we've been created, and how unbreakable it is. After X, because I cannot call it time, because at that point there is no time. Everything is kind of happening at the same time, but it's not happening like this. It's not like happening like, oh, I can't remember what just happened. So it's not. It's a very strange thing, because it's not like as we understand. It's more time, let's say a universal time. It is more based in the awareness that you have. So the more aware you are, the more you can see, and that is kind of the how it progresses. So once I was able to see a lot more, then I shifted realities, and I moved into this white world. It was, I remember, just suddenly, in a blink, in a no moment, I was suddenly in this massive place, white, of bright shine light, and I was just happy. I could feel the joy in every aspect of myself. I was so grateful. I remember constantly saying thank you, 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 because it was more than I could take. Parts of me felt like about to explode. It was the most beautiful, the most powerful, the most nurturing, the most loving, it was everything. It was everything. Once I kind of adjusted to the emotion, to the feeling, to the vibration of that place, which took me few X's. It took time. It took this process. And remember, the first experience was, I am everywhere. This place is massive, but I am everywhere. I'm not longer limited by the skin, by my skin. I'm not longer uh, inside something, I am free. And the experience of being everywhere was so powerful that I have no words to describe, to be honest. It was the the ability to know that you are in the farthest corner of that, and you cannot, you know that you are not even near the corner, but you are as far can go, and you know that you have equal distance on that direction, and it just feels like you are I felt like I was the brightest star of the universe. I felt huge, like huge, and I knew this place was even huger. But I mean, the dimensions of that were humongous. The second one, the second experience that I had was I was floating. I was no longer pulled by gravity. Like suddenly I became aware, like, oh fuck, I'm floating. I am everywhere, and I can move in any direction. I'm not going down. I am constantly floating. that was the second realization. The third one was about, suddenly I remembered where I come from, remember my past life, and I was silently kind of presented with a choice. You can go back, or you can go on. And in that space of bliss, of beauty, of love, of feeling like you have arrived home, like you are welcome, you're expected, you are needed, important, you are, it's like every single atom of the universe welcomes you with love and the most cherished expectation. It was amazing, and I was like, you know something, I'm ready. Let's move on. Let's move on. I know my past life, and although I've had a very good opportunities, and I had very beautiful people that I came in contact with, and I loved my family and everything, the amount of pain, the amount of suffering, the amount of doubt and insecurity and fear, anger, guilt that was my life, or was kind of belonged to the experiences of my life, didn't pull me back. There was nothing back there that I would consider going back to. I was sure, I was aligned perfectly to continue moving on. I was ready. And I remember this kind of, and I began moving forward. And as I began moving forward, wherever forward was, because this was just white everywhere, I see this very subtle, tiny line in front of me, and I knew, okay, that's where I have to go, because actually that's the only thing that there is here. And I was approaching this line when I begin to see on the other side of the line this tiny, or probably tiny because of the distance, I don't know, but I began to see these flames, kind of lights. It's like the closer I got, the more I saw, and I knew they were people. I knew they were people who I've met, people who know me, people who I knew from this and other lifetimes. There was a sense of recognition. I knew who they were, and I knew they knew who I was. And I felt their love, and I felt their welcome, and I felt it was as if I could see their faces, because it was like I knew exactly who they were. And the more I approached this line, the more they came closer, until the point where the first thing I see is this hand, and as I follow the hand with my eyes, I see my grandparents, my mother's parents, who died in 2000 and 2005, and I felt their love, and I felt this kind of thing of welcome, my baby. Everything is fine. You're not alone. Come on. And I was ready to kind of make contact with their hand. I don't know if I had a hand. I don't remember seeing my hand, to be honest. But I remember that I reached forward, and as soon as I was gonna touch their hand, I saw this tiny light coming from behind. Tiny, like tiny. And I came over, and I remember seeing it, and about an arm's length away, it turns around, and it kind of goes into my heart, and it pulls me back, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I remember you thinking, I'm not going back, and as I kind of brought to my mind that I was definitely not going back, like hundreds of thousands, just these tiny lights all at the same time engulfed me. It's like they suddenly, from all directions, they engulfed and they pulled me back, and I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And for an instant, we were locked, because they were not pulling me back, and I was not going forward. And I remember this, just one tiny instant of resistance, and immediately I was pulled out of that reality, and I was suddenly in this kind of tiny place. Not tiny, but tiny compared to the other one, definitely. And it was green, kind of a jade kind of green, very, very, very greenish. But it was like stone, and it was closed, and it was way, way smaller, and it had a vibration. It had a sound. It was like, and I just felt the presence. I knew there was something there, something really, really, really powerful. And the more nothing. I was just kind of like, what the fuck? A moment after, a voice shows from somewhere. I hear a voice. And it says, Eduardo, stop resisting and let go. Your next 40 years are different from your previous 40 years. Now it's time for you to enjoy your life and share your experience. In that moment, as I could remember my past, at least in this lifetime, and few details on the other ones, I began to see moments forward. I began to see myself getting older, began to see myself doing what I'm doing. I began to see myself surrounding me with the people. I began to see how I was going to enjoy my life, how different it was going to be for what it was. And as soon as I had this kind of accordion of memories expanding in both directions, I entered this vortex, and the next thing I know, I'm inside my body in hospital. And I remember the first thing I said was, fuck, I'm back. And immediately, the first experience was pain. I had tubes down my throat, keeping me alive. I had drips connected in every single vein. People were trying to save my life, but it was painful. It was painful, and it was painful in many aspects. Number one, the bed was smaller, so my feet were like this, and the tube going down my throat was pinching my mouth, and it was just a cascade of pain. And I was like, oh fuck. But then I also remembered every single thing that I just been through, and that gave me such strength. I knew for certain that there is a God. And when I say a God, that there is a consciousness above us in all directions that is just like us. It's one of us, and it's all of us. And it has this, at least in my experience, it has this fatherly, very dark, very low, very kind of imposing. That's like a fuck, like you don't mess with this guy. like whatever he tells you, I mean, you believe it. And that was the first thing that I knew for certain now, that I don't need to believe in God. I know God. And that changed my whole kind of mental construction and brain connections and all that shit, because I was like, okay, bitch, I know what the fuck to do. And I knew it. And I knew how I was gonna heal myself, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with my life. I knew that I needed to share the experience, because that's exactly what I needed to do. I needed to share the experience, so I needed to go out and share the fucking experience. Whatever that meant, or whatever that means even now. Which at this point is sharing this experience. But I have so many, I mean, this goes back. This is not remember, this is the end. At some point, we're gonna get to the beginning, just to let you know how powerful this experience was. As I wake up, and I believe I just been in the presence of God, period. Take it from there, and I've seen the line, and I saw my grandparents, and I saw a lot of people, and I understand where do we come from, and I understand the dynamics of our family constellations, and I also understand how the mind thinks, the mortal mind, how the mortal mind thinks. and why does it fear so much, and why it protects us so very powerfully. So I had so much information, and I was like, okay, bitch, let's heal. I mean, let's put this into practice. And I remember on the second day after waking up, I remember I was 9 days in coma, struggling with pneumonia, swine flu, and AIDS. AIDS because I refused for 8 years back then to take medication. So I was not taking medication. That's another story. Swine flu, the epidemic that took over so many lives in Mexico in 2012, and a pneumonia. My lungs were 95% destroyed with pneumonia, filled with this fluid. And when I woke up from the coma, I was just certain that I was going to be able to heal myself. And number two, I didn't want the doctors to touch me. I was so determined to get rid of the doctors. On the second day, after losing 30 kilos of weight, 30 kilos, I was nothing. I was like this Jewish person on the Holocaust concentration camps. There was absolutely nothing. I was bone and skin. I could hardly lift my head from the pillow. That's how weak I was. But I was weak in body. My body was weak. But my mind and my spirit were fucking roaring strength like a sun. And I was determined to make my new reality happen. The first thing I did was I pulled the drips from my body. That was on the second day. Then with my bare hands, I pull out the tube that was feeding me and keeping my lungs breathing. And I remember I was like a 1, 2, 3, and I just barfed all this shit because like black blood came out of my mouth. And I just remember jerking forward like fucking exorcist. And I just pull out all this shit out of whatever it was, my lungs, my stomach, and I vomited everywhere. I mean, it was a fucking spectacle. But 2 weeks after, I discharged myself from hospital. I began to breathe. I couldn't breathe. My lungs were destroyed. But I asked my mother to give me her support. I needed to learn to breathe again. And we began to breathe. Sa, ta, na, ma, sa, se, so, hum. That was it. 2 weeks later, I'm discharged. Doctor said, no, there is no chance that you're gonna recover. I begin to self-medicate. I know which medication is the one that I need and which ones are not, and it was like I was so determined and in charge of my own healing. 3 months after, I am giving my first workshop. In April, I was already in front of 40 people speaking up. And then I came to London, and then that's another story. But that is my near-death experience. I want to thank you all for your beautiful company. I'm going to talk more about all this. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you are, for everything you've done for your company, Satnam in Lakesh.